Alrighty guys, so we're almost done here. We saved out our project in the last chapter. This chapter we're going to bring it back into Cinema 4D and we're going to use Cinema 4D's motion system tools to see how we can do some nonlinear editing in here and combine and basically use our animations for our final visualizations. So if we go ahead and actually open the file here in Cinema 4D, and I'm going to try something different this time. I think it's worked for me last time. I don't remember actually baking my character's animation back to my skeleton the last time I tried to do this in this tutorial. So let's go ahead and try this again and see if we can skip that step, because that would be amazing. But if we come and we open up our FBX here, and this time we want to have our animation come in, and all the rest of the stuff can come in too, even though we don't have any of it. I'm going to go ahead and import in the only take we can import in Cinema. We can only import one take in when we import these files. One of the limitations of Cinema 4D versus MotionBuilder. But we baked everything down to our take 001. It's a basic walk-run cycle. And then we're going to click OK. So that's going to take a couple of moments. And it's going to go ahead and load up everything. And we're going to get a new scene that basically lost our textures and whatnot, but it's cool. We only really need the motion here in MotionBuilder right now. We also got our little character, our other little character, and its BVH stuff as well. So that's really cool. We can go ahead and just to make our scene move a little bit faster, we can go ahead and delete MotionBuilder's control rig character reference objects and some of this other stuff. And if we slide through, yes, MotionBuilder, however it saves the FBX, it actually it actually wrote out the animations to the skeleton without us actually having to bake directly to our skeleton, which is incredible. I always thought that was a major part of the workflow, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. There are benefits to actually plotting stuff to your skeleton and manipulating things on your actual skeleton itself in MotionBuilder. But it's nice that we don't have to actually bake to the skeleton to actually get skeletons to get the motion on the skeleton from MotionBuilder. We can just save the file out, come back into Cinema 4D, and we can just go. Anyway, MotionBuilder, our Cinema 4D has a motion system, and it's a nonlinear, possibly even better nonlinear workflow than MotionBuilder. And what the motion system tag allows you to do is it allows you to save out clips of motion that can be reused on other characters quickly and easily. MotionBuilder basically acts as a bridge. It allows us to use any motion from almost anywhere and apply it to a character. Its control rig also allows us to really quickly and easily pose our characters. But if we come here into Cinema 4D and we go to the Animate tab and we go ahead and we add a motion clip, what we can actually do with a motion clip is we get this dialog and we can create a motion source, which is basically like it's like a single motion. It's basically like a single take, if you will, of motion, if you want to relate it to MotionBuilder. And I like to use the MS as for motion system. I like to use that as my suffix, and I'll call this test underscore walk run underscore MS. So this is basically going to be a motion source for a walk run cycle that I did for Testa. I wanted to create a motion clip. With Cinema 4D's motion system, you can also bake in expressions. So this is great. If we didn't want to use point cache, we wanted to use just the motion system. And the great thing about the motion system, of course, is, as you'll soon see, we get a non-linear timeline type workflow where we can actually blend clips together. It might actually be a better system to use for saving out those facial animations than the other system that I taught you in the previous tutorial, point caches. Although point caches do have their benefits as well. But we can also remove the animation from the original object so that Testa no longer has this animation. And then we can tell it what exactly we want to include in this motion clip. In this particular case, we want to include position, rotations, and we don't necessarily have any parameter animation. That is, animation is being driven by like a user data system or a Expresso system, so we don't necessarily need to have this checked, but I'm gonna leave it checked anyway. And then finally, this important part here. The only problem with Cinema 4D's motion system versus MotionBuilder is with Cinema 4D, you need to make sure that the motion system that you're using, if you apply this motion clip or motion source to another character, because it pretty much can be applied to any character once it's created, just like MotionBuilder. But the character needs to have the same hierarchy that you applied this particular motion source to. So in this particular case, we're going to steal all the motion from all of these bones in the Genesis character rig hierarchy. This means, of course, we can't change that hierarchy anymore in the future. We need to make sure that the character has this exact same specific hierarchy. We can control which particular bones we want in this particular hierarchy, but for the most part, this motion system pretty much needs to match when we apply it to a new character. Luckily, in this particular case, this motion system will match with our Testa character, so we don't have to worry about that, and it will continue to match so long as we don't change any of the bone names. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and say, yeah, we want the whole animation, 49.93 frames, 749.73 frames rather, and we're going to go ahead and click OK. And lo behold, it has created a motion system for us. Not much has changed per se, except now we have this ghost that's showing us the end of the animation, and it's showing us the general animation path that this animation is taking as it reaches that end frame. In our timeline, under motion system mode, you can see that we also have a motion clip, a nonlinear clip generated that is on our first motion system layer, and it you know, it's our full animation. And this is exactly like MotionBuilder. If we were to go into MotionBuilder and create yet another clip and then create a motion clip out of that, since the hierarchy would be the same, what would happen is we would be able to load in another motion clip here, and we could drag from here to here like so, and lo behold, we can now blend motion clips together. Which means we can continue to just layer animations one on top of each other. If we go ahead and make this animation now 1405 and drag it out, we now have the ability to, we can also see with our ghosts, we can see how these animations are kind of sort of layering between each other. And we can control showing or not showing the ghosts by a check like this, by this little check mark. And we can basically go through and we can start to just layer these animations together one after another. We can also, of course, show this motion clip in key mode, and then we have the ability to use all of Cinema 4D's animation layers and animation systems to go ahead and actually layer more motion on top of this animation. So we can basically clean our animation in Cinema 4D and use all Cinema 4D's amazing animation tools down on this motion clip. But here's the big thing. Now that we've created a motion clip and a motion system for this animation, we can go ahead and save this motion source out as a clip. So we can come here to our 3D modeling, and we can come here to our tester folder, and then we can come here to our main folder, and we can create a new folder called maybe C4D motion clips. And then in there we could save this animation out. We could call it walk run. And then we're pretty much done with the MotionBuilder file. We can go ahead and close it. And now we're back in test to edit. So we're back to square one. We're back to where we started this tutorial. But now what we can do is we can click on the hip, and we use the hip as the parent for our motion source. That is, our motion system was built onto the hip, and its hierarchy was where our motion system came into play. If we go ahead and right click, do Cinema 4D tags, and add a motion system to it, we can go into our timeline, go into motion mode, and now we can load a motion source. We can load this motion source that we saved from the MotionBuilder file. And now we've got our motion source back. Now, if we want her to match this motion to start animating, all we have to do is drag the motion source to our timeline. But before we do that, let's take care of one thing. We want to be able to take her back to T-pose. And we won't be able to do that once we create a motion source, because we'll effectively have destroyed this T-pose and there'll be no way to go back. So what we want to do is we're basically going to create just a simple animation here that'll allow us to just, go back to T-pose if we need to go back to T-pose. So we'll come to our timeline. We'll go to timeline mode. We'll select, say, the hip, and we'll just we'll set some simple keyframes. We'll go back to, say, maybe a second in the animation here. So 30 frames, give or take, and we'll set another keyframe. And now we just got a simple motion clip. It's a very basic motion clip, or a very basic motion that really doesn't have any movement at all. It's just basically a T-pose, but allows us to pretty much be able to go back to this T-pose. We'll save this out as a motion clip. So we'll go to animate, we'll go to add motion clip. We'll call this test T-pose. And I'm just going to add another underscore here to separate that to make this look a little bit nicer. Tested T-pose MS. And we'll remove the animation from the original object. And now we've got two motion sources. We've got the T-pose, which we can go ahead and delete. We don't really need the T-pose. We can actually go ahead and delete that, but you'll notice if we drag it back in, voila, we've got the T-pose back. So we're not really deleting any animation when we delete here, because we still got these motion sources that have the animation built into them. They're basically clips that we can load up. Whoops. Now if I delete it from here, it's gone. But if I delete it from the timeline here, I've still got it. But now what I can do is I can drag test as walk, run cycle. And like I said, because she has the same exact bone system as the MotionBuilder file, we were able to create her motion. We were able to bring her motion back. If we extend our timeline out to about 750 frames, and if we hit H here to frame this, we can now move through this timeline, and we basically got our motion. And that's pretty much it. That is our goal. Because now that we've got these motion sources, now what we can do is we can export our testa file out as an XREF, or we can merge her into any scene that we create in Cinema 4D, and we can pretty much apply a motion system and load a motion source, and we can get any animation that we generated in MotionBuilder. Alrighty guys, so that's the basic workflow, MotionBuilder to Cinema 4D. Using these techniques, we can pretty much pre-visualize our motion in MotionBuilder and use MotionBuilder's beautiful control rig to quickly get any of thousands of animations off the internet. BIP files, Maya files, Modo, Lightwave, wherever you got animation at. As long as you bake it down to a skeleton, you can bring it into MotionBuilder. You can use any naming convention you want. and you can bring that motion into MotionBuilder and apply it to any other character that you have. All you animes out there, you know, you used 3ds Max back when you were in high school and college or whatever, and now you love Cinema 4D, but you've got this huge library of 3ds Max files, and you just need to get them into Cinema. That's how you can do it. MotionBuilder is a bridge, and it is amazing, and I just can't extol the benefits of it for animation pipeline. It just works. I guess we do have to bear in mind one little thing, though, one little issue we're having here. Her head is still up in the air, and that's mainly because in MotionBuilder, we probably didn't bake down that I know we didn't bake down that animation layer. The animation layer would have had to been baked down to our original animation take in order for that to come out. So bear that in mind. In MotionBuilder, you're going to want to bake down that layer. Merge these layers down. Layers, properties, the whole scene. And then what should happen is, yes, we should have, and I think because my computer's actually rendering a Premiere file right now, it's taking a minute to reload everything. But if we go ahead and save this now, and let it take its time saving here. Okay, and then we bring this back into Cinema. And open up test.mb.fbx and open up the take 1, and then let's just make sure Alright. And it appears not to have saved. Alright, so real quick, just in case that has something to do with it, I'm going to show you the final workflow here. If you want to bake down to the skeleton, what you're going to do is you're going to have the rig selected here, and right now our rig is already selected because we were animating the rig. So we can come to the button here and we can bake plot and bake plot down this take to the skeleton. And in this particular case, we could just plot just this single take. And if we do that, what's going to happen is it's going to turn off our control rig automatically, and we'll be able to see that our animation is actually on our skeleton. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and save this again. And then with the animation on the skeleton, you know, everything will be directly on the Cinema 4D skeleton when we come into Cinema 4D, and we should theoretically definitely have our animations. Let's go ahead and open up the FBX again. Let's select take 001. And let's play back this animation, and let's just make sure. And excellent, it finally took. So in summary, we had to come into MotionBuilder. We had to bake down our animation layers to plot all our new relative animations to our original base animation. And then we had to plot that animation to the skeleton, so that the skeleton had all the animation. I don't know how exactly that MotionBuilder workflow works without actually saving without actually baking the skeleton. But from the way I was taught, I recommend I would recommend actually baking the animation to the skeleton. That way, your original animation package's skeleton actually gets the full animation. And then in MotionBuilder, I mean, you could come in and in that plot mechanism, if you created like 10 different takes with 10 different animation shots. You could bake all the takes at once. You have to come in here, of course, in Cinema 4D and one by one load up each take and create motion clips out of them. But once you had those motion clips here in Cinema 4D, you could use them to quickly and easily get things going. It also beats the retargeting systems in Cinema 4D. I mean, they're a nightmare. You can retarget animation in MotionBuilder and then use your motion clips as a method of creating a motion clip library to just quickly and easily just stay here in MotionBuilder and just do everything. Although, like I said, MotionBuilder has a lot more benefits than just simply being able to retarget and bring animation back into Cinema 4D. That control rig is one of the most robust, most powerful control rigs I've seen in the industry. It's disgusting how powerful that thing is. And if you're creating a procedural keyframed animation and you don't have the benefit of motion capture files, creating procedural animation there in MotionBuilder is probably going to be, unless you're using something like C-Motion or 3ds Max's variant for the CAT tools of the same exact thing, creating procedural motion in MotionBuilder is just going to be much more rewarding and much more faster than anything else in the industry, in my opinion. But anyway, that's it for me, guys. I'm thinking that in the next tutorial, we're either going to discuss the texturing and how to change your default skins in DAZ, or at least use them as a base in ZBrush. We'll probably cover ZBrush and how to texture paint in there, how to use body paint to create UVs, and how to just basically manipulate your character's textures, so you can get characters that are much more original looking, and just have a different total look. But yeah, it's been a pleasure teaching you guys these two programs, and I hope hope you guys create beautiful animations. Until next time, take care.